Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's almost midday market watch. We've had some technical issues today for which we apologise. I'm Jeffrey Howley and my co-host today is Samantha Voon. And our guest today is Jessica Amir, market strategist down at Moomoo in Sydney. Jessica, good afternoon.
Hello, how you guys going?
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here with you.
Right, let's have a look around Asian stock markets first and see what has been happening across the region. It's a bit of a mixed price action today, given Wall Street retreated in quite a linear fashion overnight. The Nikkei 225 is almost unchanged, down just 0.03%. The Shanghai Composite is up 0.23%. The Hang Seng has rallied 2.21%, with Sydney's ASX 200 up just 0.09%. In South Korea, the Kospi is down 0.31%, while Singapore's STI has risen by 1.13%. And bringing up the rear, Kuala Lumpur's KLSE is down just 0.29%. Jessica, it's a bit of a mixed bag price action-wise there today. Would you care to take us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess coming into this week, momentum has been really strong. And so if we think about what's going on in the US, in 16 of the 18 last weeks, we've had gains in US stocks. So momentum is strong and the breadth of the rally has now extended. We've almost got 78% of the stocks in the S&P 500 above their 200-day moving averages. So this is a really bullish signal and we're not really seeing any impetus for this slowing down. We know that the market is waiting for Fed commentary and that'll be overnight in the US. Our overnight, of course. But the market is already starting to price out rate cuts. And so it's only natural that we do see some profit taking as we saw in the US session overnight. Look, despite that, we did see some pin-up stocks like NVIDIA fall and then catching lots of bids. And that's just one example of a stock that's quite resilient. But then on the downside, we are seeing new lows for the likes of Apple and Tesla, but that's another story. But really importantly, Jeffrey, I guess the market is really holding its breath for next week's CPI and PPI prints, because that'll either be, a validation of, inflation potentially rearing up for the second straight month, or will we see a reversal of the long-term trends, and that is inflation has been coming down. We really need to see which way, inflation has been trending in the second month of the year. So that'll probably be really key as well for validating the next move in the market.
Right. So, Jess, Wall Street fell overnight, but one stock market darling Tesla is now 38% off its highs. Is this the peak EV for Tesla?
Also, Tesla being down 38%, so it's hitting new lows. So I don't really think the biggest EV name out there will be staying this low. And so if we think about where this stock might be in a year's time, I'd probably say it wouldn't be at the same place. And so we know with end of quarter rebalancing coming up at the end of the month, or rather more so imminently, you'd think that this stock would be catching some bids. But currently, at the minute, the odds are currently stacked against Tesla. And so this is succumbing to a lot of trading rather than new investors flooding in. And so what I mean by that is the options are actually increasing significantly in Tesla, and that is because there's lots of noise going on in the EV space. So just this week, BYD, the biggest and most sold BEV, battery electric vehicle in the world, they cut their costs heavily of their two flagship electric vehicles. And so that's one thing, and we do know that's really important. That's a key growth area for Tesla. So I guess their grass has been cut, so expect more price wars ahead. So that's going to be a lot of head noise and cause more volatility in Tesla's stock. And then in the other parts of the world, we now know in Europe, for example, that Tesla is now ranked 4th in terms of EV sales. So the odds are kind of stacked against Tesla seeing an imminent recovery. But I do think that that Tesla might potentially see some bottom feeders, bites and nibbles soon. And then last but not least, it's really worthwhile pointing out, for those that don't know, Trump's actually meeting with Elon Musk. And so we might potentially see some sort of potential, I guess, maybe sanctions come in should Trump get into power. And I guess the thinking is, will we maybe see some Chinese EV names potentially vetoed, or some type of an anti-buying, I guess, I don't know, tariff or something. There might potentially be something in the wake of these discussions. Something might be, potentially there to put a slowdown to some of the Chinese names that are likely to try and penetrate the US market. So that's something to keep on your radar. But yep, to answer your question, I don't think that Tesla shares will probably stay, down in a double bear market for the foreseeable future.
I can imagine that would be a double-edged sword for Elon Musk, because if they put bans on importing Chinese cars to the United States, then you can probably expect the same treatment to be heading back Tesla's way. Now that you mentioned Donald Trump, it's Super Tuesday in the United States, where 15 states are voting for their nominations to run in the presidential election in November for both the Democrats and the Republicans. Democrats has fairly much gone to plan. Mr. Biden is on track there, but it does look like Mr. Trump is going to sweep at least 14 of those 15 states. I do believe Nikki Haley has won Vermont. What are the implications of this vote today, and do you think it will impact markets in any way?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. So we do know that Trump is good for business, and Trump is absolutely pro-business. And look, regardless of who gets in, we do know that in a presidential election year, markets are up 80% of the time. So that's a good thing for stocks, and it's obviously a no-brainer, because we obviously new policies, potential stimulus flown up in the air left, right and centre, and that puts a lot of good sentiment in the air. But second of all, let's touch on Trump. So we do know overnight, just on the back of the US Supreme Court actually giving the nod for Trump now to actually go on the presidential ballot, we do know that we're seeing a lot of bids in those stocks that Trump was essentially, I guess, involved in his 2020 re-election. So one stock that comes to mind is called Phunware. So Phunware is the stock, a small stock, I will say. So Phunware shares jumped 75% on the back of the US Supreme Court giving that nod. And then overnight, their shares jumped 18%. So really worthwhile keeping your eye on this stock, because it has been moving up considerably up off its lows, just again on the notion that we could potentially see this stock have a lot of breath pumped into it in way of earnings and revenue growth should Trump get closer down the line, which, as you said, looks pretty probable. There's other few names that did catch a lot of bids overnight. We do have Digital World Acquisition Corp and Rumble. They were also previously affiliated or tied up into Trump's prior presidential run, and they are some shares to watch. But look, by the by, we do know that markets traditionally do well in the final year of an outgoing presidency, and along, regardless of whoever comes, markets are up 80% of the time.
All right. So I wanted to ask a bit about Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin had a roller coaster ride overnight, reaching new time highs above 69,000 before slumping back to 59,000 and then rallying now to 63,500. Can you make sense of this price action for our viewers? And where does Bitcoin go from here, Jess?
Well, two quick responses. So Bitcoin is probably headed higher, and the reason that we did see the volatility is because I guess it's very natural to see profit taking when you're seeing extreme moves. So Bitcoin, without a doubt, over the past year, I'm talking 12 months, it's been the best performing asset class, if we can call it that, on the back of the SEC's validation of it being essentially an asset. And so very natural, very normal part of markets. So you're going to see some profits taken off the table just in case we see downside swings. And absolutely, we saw that. But the options pricing is telling us that Bitcoin is probably going to head higher. That's if you believe the options. So there's more calls than puts. So options calls are obviously a bet for the price to go higher. And so there's a considerable large amount of calls in the market for Bitcoin to rise above $70,000. And the reason that this could potentially be likely is we do know that Bitcoin halving is ahead, and Bitcoin halving essentially causes scarcity in the currency and naturally reducing the amount of Bitcoin in circulation. Obviously, supply and demand factors are there. We do know demand for Bitcoin is increasing heavily. And what is behind that is you've got some of the world's biggest fund managers. Think about BlackRock, think about Fidelity, think about ARK. So when I talk about demand, in fact, I'll just call it out. So you saw $2.4 billion flow into the world's biggest or one of the world's biggest Bitcoin ETFs this week. So week on week, $2.4 billion of brand new flows, $900 million going into another hotly purchased Bitcoin ETF. So 900 million, again, just calling that out. And the third most bought ETF this week in Bitcoin is Cathie Wood's ARK ETF, the Bitcoin ETF there, 132 mil. So you're seeing unprecedented demand from the retail market, buying the dip, betting that Bitcoin prices will be higher in 6 to 12 months if history repeats itself, which it typically has done every time the Bitcoin price has halved. That being said, we've got to be balanced. There are some calls out there that Bitcoin could see a very sharp fall after the halving. So I just urge anyone to think of your investment strategy, think about taking profits when you reach your target price or when you reach your target, whatever your target is. Do you want to make a 5%, 10% profit? Once you've hit that, potentially think about maybe taking some profits off the table, because I can bet you that a lot of fund managers will be doing exactly the same. You just really want to maximize your profits and take risk off the table should a trade or should your investment move against you. The same applies to every single investment that you do make.
Those are very, very wise words indeed, Jessica. Jessica, Amir, thanks so much for your insights today.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
And we've been speaking to Jessica Amir, market strategist at moomoo down in Sydney, Australia, on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Jeffrey Halley, along with my co-host Samantha Voon, and this video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. You can also see this on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks so much for tuning in today.